Hey guys, so back with another editing video here. This time it is of a what I would call a retro bathroom. This house was built in the 70s and I'm not sure anything had been touched since then. However, it was very well kept, very clean and well maintained, so we're going to make it look that way in these photos. So here is the the flash photo that we're going to start with. You can see I did 1/100th of a second. I was at f5 and my ISO was at 80. I was using the Sony a7 III, and you can see here I'm at 12 millimeter at the on the 12 to 24 millimeter f4G lens. So that being said, this was our flash shot. These are our settings. I shot with a Neewer TT560, I believe is the number. It came off of Amazon. A Neewer trigger as well that came off of Amazon. I think together they were both like 60 bucks. So super cheap. Nothing fancy. However, it does what I need it to do, which is light the room. And it's quick and easy to set up, and it's small, so it's very portable, and I don't have to have a lot of equipment with me. So anyways, this was our flash shot, and this was our ambient lighting shot. See, pretty much the same settings, 1/100th of a second, f5, and still at 12 millimeter. But the only thing that I change is the ISO. So our f-stop stays the same, our shutter speed stays the same, obviously our focal length stays the same, and then personally I use the ISO to adjust the exposure from the flash shot to the ambient shot. And so you can see flash, ambient, and what we're going to do is just combine the two of these photos to get the best of both worlds. You can see in the ambient shot here, you have some shadow underneath the vanity here, like under this toe kick. Obviously the light is blown out. Just the shadows back here, uneven lighting. And then the flash shot, it's the opposite. So our light, it might be a little blown out there, but you get some of that detail back in the light. There's no shadow back here. You do have this shadow, and then obviously like we're lit more under the vanity here, still a little shadow in the toe kick, but just is what it is. And so the overall goal is just to make an evenly lit photo with as little shadow as possible. So that's why we combine the two. So jump right into it. I start with the highlights and shadows. And I don't have a technical definition of this, but I usually do my highlights and whites around 60, and then shadows and blacks, I push those up to about 60. And like I said, I don't have like a technical reason for doing this. It's what works for me the best. I know I can hop in here and do that and pretty much get the same result every time with the way that I shoot. So we do that. We'll adjust the exposure accordingly. So get that about where it needs to be. I'm going to boost it just a little bit. So you can see in the histogram there, we're right in the center. And then I'm going to apply lens correction. And so what that does is just correct our profile, takes away any chromatic aberration that might be hidden in the image anywhere, and basically just kind of straightens everything out, evens the lighting a little bit. And then the last thing we'll do is adjust the white balance. So I'm going to take the drop tool here, and this sync was white, so that's what I'm going to click. And as you can see, the image was way warm, so that cooled it off a good bit. And then all I'm going to do is copy these settings, Command V for paste, and what that's going to do is paste these same settings to our ambient shot. Obviously the white balance is way off, but all we'll do is take the dropper here and click the sync again, and that brings us back to a more realistic white balance. And so now I'll just kind of compare these two images. I want them to be pretty much the same exposure. So you can see this is pushed up to toward the top of the histogram a little bit. So I'm actually going to pull this exposure back down some. It was exposed pretty well in camera, so we don't have to adjust that very much. Turn that off. And so now you can see our white balance is pretty good. It's not going to be perfect because it's different lighting situations between both photos, but it's pretty darn close, and our exposure is pretty darn close as well. So now I'm going to click Shift and click to select both of these images, right click. We're going to go to Edit in Layers in Photoshop. I should have had Photoshop open to begin with, so it would have been faster, but here we are now. So once these layers open up in Photoshop, you want to make sure your flash layer is on the top. So flash layer is on the top. Sometimes I just have to drag it up, but this one, in the order that I shot the pictures, it is on top when it opened up. And so you'll see if we turn this off and on pretty quickly, you can see that the images aren't perfect as far as the alignment, like, you know, and the shadows have a little bit of a visual effect as well, but you know, your tripod shakes a little bit here and there, and so the pictures rarely are perfectly aligned. So I'll select both of the layers, and I have a shortcut on my keyboard for Command A, which brings up the Auto Align Layers feature. You can also go to Edit and go right here to Auto Align Layers. It will bring this box up, and I just leave it on auto. Always works great for me. Click OK. And so now that ensures that the lines and, you know, different objects in our pictures are lined up. You can see now the shadows change, however, the alignment of the photos pretty much stay the same. And so what we're going to do is just black out this flash layer with a mask. So I'm going to hold down Option, click that to get a black mask, and what that does is just completely covers up this layer. So now we don't see the flash layer. As you can see, when we turn it on and off, nothing happens. So we're looking at our ambient layer here. And so we're just going to take a brush in white, and we're going to brush this layer to let some of the flash photo show through where we want it to. So for example, I'm going to make this a little smaller, but wherever there are shadows or blown out portions in the ambient shot, you just brush in the flash shot to correct those. So like under here, just going to brush a little bit, bring some of that light under it. And we don't want to brush too much right here, because I remember seeing a shadow under the edge of that countertop in the flash photo, and we don't want to bring that shadow in. Then we're going to brush over here, kind of even this lighting out. Just going to brush across the floor. Usually the flash photo, unless there are shadows, it's a little more evenly lit. The countertop up here will darken it some. This wall back here in the mirror. Okay, and you see that? So there was a light hanging right on the edge of this picture, so you can't see the light in the picture, but in the flash photo you can see the shadow of the light. So we'll come back and remove that shadow, especially over here. I want to, on the edge of that mirror. we do on this wall over here, kind of even that out, and you can see we're getting some of the shadow from these towel bars. And we're going to make this smaller and do this light. And you can see that detail start coming back into the light fixture there as we brush the flash layer in. And so there were a few shadows that came out that we do not want to keep around, like this one right here. So we're just going to make our brush, we changed our brush back to black, and we're just going to cover those back up. There's one from that chain, and then some of these from these towel bars. It's overhead. Can barely see the shadow of that light coming through, so we will change that. You can see this line right here. I believe that came through in one of our masks, so I'm going to try to brush that out. Just kind of even that as best as I can. Okay, so you can see here the mask in that thumbnail, all those white spaces are where we're letting the underlying layer show through. So now when we turn it on and off, you can see the parts of that flash layer that are showing through. And basically what it does is just evens that lighting out. Again, I've said that 10 times, but that's the goal, is just to even the lighting out, to try to get rid of shadows and highlights that are, you know, in the extremes. So, you know, you can watch the light fixture here and watch down here under the sink how that changes when we turn that layer on and off. And so that's probably as good as that's going to get. And like I said, as I called it, a retro bathroom, but it's in great shape. So we're going to make it look great. We're going to close that out and click Save, which brings us back into Lightroom here with our edited image. So we have the flash image, ambient image, and now we have this combination of the two. And so then we'll go ahead and add our final adjustments here. First, we'll start with the cropping tool. We're just gonna get rid of these white edges that appeared when we aligned the photos. We're gonna straighten it just a little bit, make sure, you know, the center of the photo is straight. Using a super wide angle lens, 12mm here, so you know, it's got a touch of the fisheye effect somewhat, but most of the time with the cropping and the transformation tools, we can pretty much get rid of all that. So now that it's cropped and straightened, we'll start with our adjustments. So again, I'm going to start with our highlights and whites, bringing those down just a little bit. I won't make the image like too flat, but we will add some contrast in a second. So I'm going to put those, I like those around 50 there. Probably do the same with the shadows. Something, leave those down a little bit just because it's starting to look washed out. If we push them all the way up, then it's looking, the picture's looking really soft. So leave those down around 30. And then I'm gonna boost the exposure where I want it, and I like my photos good and bright. I don't like, you know, pictures that you can't see parts of the pictures, or you have to turn your brightness all the way up. So I'm going to push that up pretty high there for what it is. And then what we're going to do is add some contrast to breathe some life back into the photo. So you can see it's really flat with no contrast. And then we'll drag this up. We're going to add some pop. It's going to push that pretty high there. I might bring the exposure back down just a little bit. And so when we push that contrast up, you'll notice we got a lot of, or we brought out a lot of color. Just kind of some orange tints under the sink and the floor, you know, back here in these darker parts of the picture. And we will fix those in a second. So it looks kind of bad right now with the contrast pulled up, but in our color mixer, we can adjust that. And so I'm gonna leave it alone. Also going to adjust the white balance just a hair. The image seems a little bit warm, and it's definitely on the magenta side because the bathroom is pink. So I'm actually going to pull that down just a notch or two to try to get rid of some of those magenta tones. Cool it off a little more. And then we've got texture and clarity. So texture almost kind of sharpens the image. So you can see when you turn it down, it gets very soft. When you turn it up, it's very, I would say it's sharpened. You know, I don't know the technical term for it, but that's what I would call it. And between blending the two pictures and adjusting our highlights and shadows between all of the layers and everything, you know, the image does start to get a little soft. So I do like to push this up a little bit, bring a little detail back into the picture. And then clarity, you know, I see a lot of pictures like this with the clarity pushed all the way up. Not my taste. If it is yours, that's fine. But clarity, I like to usually push it up a little bit as well, just to bring back more detail again. Now, sometimes I will push it down lower to add kind of a dreamy effect, I guess you could say. So it kind of softens the image, kind of makes your highlights, you know, glow. And so you can do it that way, and I don't hate that, to be honest, but for this purpose, I'm gonna push the clarity up just a little bit, like I said, to bring a little more detail back into it. And vibrance and saturation, I don't really mess with those much. I do most of that in the color mixer. And then, so that's what we'll jump to here. So I always mess with the saturation first, and I'll pretty much go through each color and I'll push them up to the extreme to see where these colors pop out in the photos. Because sometimes they can hide. Like I never, you know, I wouldn't have thought that there would be red in this countertop. It looks more like it'd be purple or magenta, but there are touches of red. And this pink towel, it's pretty obvious it shows up as red there. So a lot of these places that I'm seeing red, I don't think it should be there. So I'm gonna desaturate the red some. And then same with the orange, we're gonna push it all the way up. And let me tell you that in person, nothing in this bathroom was orange. It was all pink, different shades of pink. So orange should not be there. The reason we're getting some of that is probably the reflection of light out of this warm colored floor. It was kind of a creamy color. And then also the temperature of the lighting in the room. And so definitely going to desaturate the orange. Try to get rid of most of that here. Same with the yellows, we're going to push those up, and you can see that's mostly in the floor, some in the ceiling. Nothing in this room was yellow. It was kind of a creamy color, but not yellow. And so I'm going to desaturate the yellow as well. See, when we push our greens up, I see some back here in the wallpaper, and that's mostly going to be from the lighting. There was not green in the wallpaper. We'll do that. Desaturate that. See that in the wallpaper back here as well. Again, was not there. And then we have our blue. So see most of that in the white areas of the picture. So this corner and the sink, none of that was blue either. Desaturate. Purples, actually can see those. Hey guys, that was not purple. It's just the lighting. So we're gonna desaturate that, and then magenta. Oh wow, okay, that's not as much as I thought would be in this photo. So see, it surprises me. But I am gonna desaturate that as well. So most everything in this bathroom was either like a light pink or the like creamy tan color in the floor. So that's the only colors that we should really be seeing in the picture. So next I'm going to go to hue. And again, kind of do the same thing with these to see where they land. I'm going to bring those down toward the reds. Ooh. So actually I'm going to bring that down toward the red side and then desaturate it some more. And so we want that to show as like a light pink color. Right, and the greens, I'm actually going to push those up toward the green some. I'm sorry, the yellows. And the greens, so there wasn't a whole lot of green in the picture to begin with, but I'm going to pull that down just a little bit for this corner. It will stay warm. Same with aqua, not a whole lot there. Not a whole lot the blues, but I pretty much always at least bring those down a little bit into the aqua end. And purple, just leave those alone. I'm not seeing much of those there either. All right, and then last on the color mixer here, we will do the luminance. And so for the red, so you can see like all on this countertop, up here in the shadow, the towel, bright, dark. And so actually going to boost those a little bit, brighten them up. The orange, we're definitely going to boost because most of the orange seems to be in the shadows. Like down here, over on the side of the shower, our yellows. I'm going to boost those back up a little bit because when they're pulled down, it just makes the floor look dirty and gross. So I'm going to brighten those. There was not a lot of the green, again, mostly in this top corner. Just leave those alone. So might bring the aqua down just a little bit just to get the detail back in that wallpaper. Blue, I'll bring the blue down just a little bit to get this detail over here. So I'm gonna boost that purple some. And then bring the magenta down to even this section right here out where I'm seeing it. So it makes that shadow not as noticeable from the chain here. So that's the color mixer. Detail, add sharpening. Pretty much always do like 75 sharpening and around 20-25 on the mask. Again, no technical explanation for that. It's just what works for me. It's easy to do and I don't have to think about it on every picture. I just know that 99% of the time that works for me, and so like I said, I don't have to think about it. Same with luminance and color noise reduction. Do those around 20-ish, 25, somewhere in there. And I'll do the lens correction again, just in case there was anything we missed. And overall, that's pretty much a finished product. So we'll click our before and after here. So before, see how dark it was, really kind of orange. a warmer photo than it was in real life. So we just brightened it up, got rid of some of those hidden color tones, and added a little detail, a little contrast to make it pop, and there we have it. One last thing I want to mention, guys, is that, you know, it takes me a minute to go through one of these photos, but from here on out, in most cases, all I have to do is copy and paste these settings through the rest of the pictures of the house. Now, you know, I might have to go back and make some minor adjustments like exposure or contrast or the white balance or something like that, but in the grand scheme of things, I do, you know, the first photo here and then copy and paste those settings, like I said, through the rest of the pictures of the house. And generally speaking, they come out pretty good. Like I said, I only have to do minor adjustments, and that saves a ton of time on the rest of them. So you spend your time critiquing and perfecting that first photo kind of where you want it, and then copy and paste, and you can fly right through it. So I am going to be making these videos as long as I'm doing real estate photography and editing. So if you guys are into it, go ahead and subscribe, comment, let me know. You know, what are you guys doing differently? What's your methods of photography? What's your methods of editing? What do you think about my methods? You know, just drop a comment. Let's have a conversation, and look forward to showing you guys my next project. Thanks.